What's up, everyone, and welcome to Project X Talk, an Xbox podcast, episode number 129, presented by Save the Game Media. I am your host, Kevin, and today I am joined by a very special co-host for this week's episode. He's the creator of the JamPackSam YouTube channel, making entertaining and informative videos throughout the week. Sam, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well, my man. I hope you're doing well as well. I'm happy to be here talking some Xbox stuff. We have a huge roster of topics to discuss,
Mm-hmm.
some of which may be breaking. I don't know. We'll find out.
Absolutely, yeah. I chose a good week to get a guest host on here. We've had, even just today, like you were saying, some really good topics to run down, including some E3 news, which I think will probably be the majority of the show. But if you are new to the podcast, you can get it live every Thursday right here on YouTube. If you can't catch us live, we post every Friday morning on your favorite podcast service of choice. Please, while you're over there, drop us a rating, drop us a review. It does help us in that algorithm. And if you want to interact with us more, please come join the Discord. That link is down in the description below. If you want to support us further, get early access to Save the Game Media content and bonus post shows, head on over to patreon.com/Save the Game Media. Choose the tier that's right for you, like our current Patreon supporters. So thank you to Bucky Blue, Hopple, Alpaca Tom, Amon, Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Brianna's wife, Nikolai at Night, Cypher, Primus, Brendan Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Lillian, Mimi J, The Snack Network, David Hotright, Dave Harp, and the Xbox Expansion Pass. Thank you all. We appreciate your support. Couldn't do it without you. But now that we got the housekeeping out of the way, Sam, let's start each episode like we do by going around the room and asking one simple question. That question is, what have you been playing, my friend?
Oh, well, the past couple of weeks have been super busy, so the time has been limited. But I went to HCS last month, so I've been back on the Halo grind a little bit, as I typically am, playing the weeklies. I'm about to dive into Forza Horizon 5 Rally later on, but since then, over the past month or so, I've been playing Wolong, Fallen
Ooh.
Dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
And it is currently my game of the year. It is
Really?
phenomenal. So I finished it all the way. Did not get the full achievement list
Mm-hmm.
cracked out, but planning on going back, checking out the DLC. So that has been a really good time.
Now, our audience heard a little about Wolong from Ethan. He played it for a bit, but then I believe he had an issue where his game bugged out and he could no longer dodge or parry. He couldn't. He had some game breaking glitch, so he kind of gave up on that. I don't know if that's been addressed since then, but what about Wolong makes it your game of the year? I'm really curious.
So I'm typically not a Souls-like guy. Like I
Hmm.
I played Bloodborne way back when it first came out, didn't vibe with me. My girlfriend is super into Elden Ring. I watched her play through hundreds of hours of it. I pick it up, don't like it at all. Like it's just not my thing. So Game Pass, Wolong lands. I'm like, all right, sure, why not? We'll dive in, give it a shot.
Hmm.
It has been years since a game that I wasn't expecting to impress me pulled me in and really started, kind of working with me in a way that made me feel the way that I feel. Like it's very rare that a game shocks me anymore, and so this one was really shocking to me. But I love the parry mechanic. Apparently, some people have issues with it. If you can't parry in Wolong, you can just throw the whole thing away because that's the whole point of the majority of the combat. But love the parry, love the weapon variety. I love how cheesy the dialogue is. And so all of those things, some people would probably hate it, but man, it just really worked for me.
Hmm. Well, it's good you said that about the parry because I do not like parries in
Ooh.
any video game. I'm very much a roll. Like playing God of War, I was like, I'm not doing. I'm just gonna dodge. I can't deal with parries. I'm just bad, which is weird because I'm good at rhythm games like Guitar Hero. But if you ask me to time up the attacks of enemies, I am so bad at it. So
Yeah, I get it.
not
I
for
get
me.
it. Yeah,
Not
no,
for
I
me.
hear you on that. Yeah, you would not enjoy Wolong. Did you enjoy Hi-Fi Rush? Have you checked it out as a follow up to that?
Yes, I loved Hi-Fi Rush actually, and that one I didn't parry that much.
Ah,
I just dodged around. The one boss where you have to. I don't know if you've beaten it, but there's one boss
yeah.
where you have to parry.
It's like the samurai one where he dodges across the screen or whatever. I think that's the one that it might be. There's a couple that bake that element in there.
And it
Yeah.
drove me. It was the only boss I lost over and over again. And I almost was like, I don't know if I'm good enough to do this. I just, it's not working for me. I can't do it. And then I finally got a perseverance, and I was like, this is why I don't play the games where it heavily relies on parries like
Yeah.
Wolong. Uh, Shout out Sean Capri in the chat says, "Are you live?" Yes, we are live. We are live indeed. Um, That's awesome to hear you got some good games going on. I have been not playing my Xbox. I know people won't be hearing that.
Choked on my water. Oh
Yeah,
god.
they're gonna come for me. I have been strictly on my PlayStation because I'm diving into the Trails of Cold Steel series from Falcom. I've beat the first one, which I said I was going to do. I am little over halfway done with the second one, and these are JRPGs where you can spend up to 60 to 100 hours, and I'm trying to get through 4 of them before the end of, like, May, June,
Ooh.
so I'm very much, like, speed running these, like, main story, let's get this done in, like, 25 hours. Luckily, there's a turbo mode. Really loving these types of games, though. Eh, I don't know if I like the second one as much as the first one. I think
Mhm.
it felt like the budget's a little smaller, but I'm enjoying it. You're not a JRPG guy, are you, Sam? I don't think I've
I am
ever heard you
not.
talk about them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm not a JRPG guy, but I respect it. So what has triggered this 4-game run that you're on right now with this series? Is there something in particular that's going on?
Well, yes. So in July, Trails into Reverie comes out, which is basically the end game of the Trails series because they have Trails into the Sky trilogy, the Crossbell duology, which I've played, and then the Trails of Cold Steel 4 game run, and it all culminates in Trails into Reverie. So I'm just trying to catch up. So when I play that game in July, I'm not like completely lost or spoiled.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, the only time I draw a line with the naming formats and stuff is when you start getting the Kingdom Hearts 378
Oh my
over
god.
2 or when you bring
Mhm.
fractions into the titles, you lose me with that kind of vibe. But these sound like something I could probably get behind eventually.
Man, they're really good games, really good story, character focused stories, which is why I like them a lot. It's simple turn-based combat. There's nothing amazing about the combat system. I'm really
Mhm.
just here for the story. So, I'm going to be working through that. So if you're listening, you're going to hear about this one, then the third one, and the fourth one, and I'm just going to never shut up about it until probably Redfall is probably the
Ooh,
next Xbox game. So pretty
nice.
excited for that one. Yeah, I'm gonna get some co-op in. It's looking good. Look, I don't know if you're excited for Redfall.
Yeah, I've been looking at some of the previews. I would say like hype levels are at probably a 6 maybe. I'm somewhere around a 6 on it. Um I want to see more, and again, beauty of Game Pass, I can dive in and see if it's my thing, but I have a love-hate relationship with Arcane where I love the idea, then I start playing and I'm like, "Ooh, Deathloop, man, you feel slow and sluggish. I think I'm
Uh,
out."
Thank you. I did not like that game at all. I haven't
Duh.
liked any arcane game actually, so my excitement for Redfall is strictly co-op focused, where I think I can have fun playing with other people.
Yeah.
If this was just a single player game, I probably wouldn't care.
Yeah,
So,
so Arcane, just so for my knowledge, they did Dishonored, right? They're like
mhm,
that. Yeah, so I enjoyed Dishonored Definitive Edition. I thought that was well done. Didn't get into Dishonored 2 mainly because it's still locked at 30. Then we get into like the Deathloop stuff. Didn't vibe with me there.
mhm.
But Redfall, we'll see.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. So we got lots of games to look forward to this year. Okay, but one thing we don't have to look forward to, if we can dive into the news here, Sam, E3. E3
Whew.
is officially canceled. So this story broke in parts. So first up, Ubisoft earlier in the week confirmed that it will not be attending E3. Only weeks after the CEO said that they would be at the expo. Instead, Ubisoft said they're going to hold their own event, Ubisoft Forward Live, on June 12th. IGN then came out later with reports that Sega and Tencent also were skipping the event. Along with this, they said there are multiple publishers and PR companies that haven't heard much about E3. And then finally, right before we went live, we got a message from the ESA. They've confirmed E3 2023 has been canceled. Kyle Marsden Kish, the global VP of gaming for ReedPop, said, quote, "This was a difficult decision because of all the effort we and our partners put towards making this event happen, but we had to do what's right for the industry and what's right for E3. We appreciate and understand that interested companies wouldn't have playable demos ready and that resourcing challenges made being at E3 this summer an obstacle they couldn't overcome. For those who did commit to E3 2023, we're sorry we can't put on the showcase you deserve. You deserve, and that you've come to expect from ReedPod's event experiences." So, Sam, initial reactions: E3 has been canceled this year. What are we thinking?
I mean, I think that we all saw it coming. over the past couple of months, we had, like you mentioned, the big players pulling out. Whenever you start seeing those names drop, it's almost like a situation where everybody is watching to see what the other person's doing. So Sony obviously been out for a while. Xbox kind of doing their own thing, kind of not, kind of just figuring out where they affiliate. Nintendo doing their own thing. But then you got like Ubisoft, and I'm sure Sega was probably looking at other third parties, and they were like, "Well, what are they going to do?" Ubisoft drops, Sega drops. It's just a domino effect. Um, what I don't like are the people that are like dancing on the grave of E3 because I'm sure you're probably in my boat. E3 was gamer Christmas. I
Hmm.
mean, that was the time. Like, I remember getting out of school, the first thing I was looking forward to for the summer wasn't a beach trip. No, my nerdy ass was all about some E3. And so to see it gone is just kind of it's a bummer, not that we need it, but just out of nostalgia, where it's kind of like how the Ash storyline in Pokemon wrapped up a couple of weeks
Hmm.
ago. Like we grew up with that, and now we've got something else. New Pokemon is Summer Game Fest in this case, where like it's still pretty much the same thing, but it's not E3. So not surprising, just kind of sad.
Yeah, I think I know a lot of people on my timeline saw this coming. I think I said earlier in the week after Ubisoft in some discords that I expected it to be canceled. I believe you responded to me even and said, "Yeah, probably this week it's gonna." So we were on the same wavelength of thinking this event wasn't going to happen, and I think it sucks not because E3 is something that the industry needs. I think the industry is kind of showing that we're moving past E3, but I think for the consumer and for gamers, this is sad because it is that thing we grew up with. I was very much like you. I knew Sundays have been Xbox for as long as I can remember. Their showcase, you'd have the Bethesda showcase later in the evening, then you'd have PlayStation. Just seeing and then going online being like, "Oh, who had the better showcase?" It was so much fun to like just get into that conversation with other people and like all the amazing games that were shown off, the funny stage moments, my body is ready from Reggie over there. Like it's given us
Yeah.
so many iconic moments that I think that is really what I'm sad to lose, that we're not going to see any more of those big stages with the press conferences and mic drop moments. Instead, we're going to get these canned, overly produced video productions, which they're fine. Nintendo Direct is working. It works for them, but it does take away some of the magic and does take away some of the interpersonal relationship, I think, that E3 really garnered.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that one of the things that I think about whenever, you're looking at, you're almost putting together this kind of like in memoriam of E3 situation. I remember watching on G4 back like before
Hmm.
the reboot, way back in like, '06, '07. Growing up, my mom, she cleaned houses for a living. And so I would go with her during the summers because I didn't have anywhere else to go. So all of these people that we worked for, they would have like the enhanced cable where you had hundreds and hundreds of channels. I found E3 or I found G4 through that and they were covering
Hmm.
E3. So that was always something that like inspired me to do this, inspired me to love the gaming industry and to fall in love with tech. Um, and so E3 has always been foundational in that way. But like you said, growing up, coming into that, now in my teens, now into my 20s and my late 20s, that online conversation, that excitement around whatever was going on from E3, those pivotal moments, Keanu walking out on stage
Hmm.
during the Xbox show. I mean, those are just the moments, like you said, the canned, overly produced stuff is fine, but you're not going to get that organic kind of just natural evolution of how a game should be revealed or how a show should go.
Yeah, you lose the crowd for one, and I think the crowd plays a big part. Just there's something about seeing your peers and other gamers in the community excited. Like it's infectious, and I really love that. And it's sad that, and I'm gonna ask you, like, is this the end of E3? Like, do you think there's any way they come back from this? Because in my personal opinion, like, if this wasn't the year, when is the year? Because I don't know that there's a way forward for them from here.
I mean, my thoughts, and I've kind of shared it on Twitter. I think I've talked about it in a video earlier this week, but what the only route forward for E3 seems to be for me is that it needs to become a full fan event. It's got to really throw itself into being a PAX or something where people just gather to enjoy games. The ESA, and I fully expect them to be behind the failure of this year's show specifically because they brought in Reed Pop, who's behind
Hmm.
like PAX, who's behind Star Wars Celebration, behind San Diego Comic Con or New York, one of the two. But they know the events, they know how to
Hmm.
make one happen. I think the ESA is trying to make this is where people come to unveil their stuff. This is where people come to host their shows. That's not true anymore. You've got to be able to say this is where gamers come to celebrate games. This is where developers and publishers come to showcase demos for these players. And I think if they did that, there's a route forward. But I don't think that's the vision they have.
No, it's funny you say that because when E3 started way well, I don't know if start, but when I was growing up, E3 was primarily a gamer focused community event. Like you would when you saw it being covered on G4, you would see like, oh, this is the crowd of all the gamers. Like you didn't have the and then they shut it down for a while for just media, right? And then they open it up and then you got those mixed days. So you're kind of going like bring it back to what made it special. Bring it back to gamer focused. Even if you don't have those giant reveals, like make it a game focus. Basically, pack what you were saying, PAX East, but on a bigger scale, right? Like get the major publishers involved, but instead of asking them to dish out hundreds of thousands of dollars for a big showcase, maybe just to be like, you can come play our games, be part of the community. We'll have some fan celebration things going on. That could be, it could be a cheaper way to run, which I don't know if they get the convention center then, but it would certainly
Mhm.
lower their overall cost and it would bring a sense of community and probably get some goodwill towards the ESA, which they sorely need.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that E3, the statement they put out is not wrong. E3 is still a very powerful name to have, and it's still
Hmm.
a very powerful brand. And I think that Summer Game Fest, as far as like the general conversation, is getting up there with E3. But if you went up to somebody who hasn't played games in 20 years, they would know what E3 is. Like that's still a prevalent thing. And so leveraging that and leveraging the notoriety that has, you could totally make an event where imagine if they invited Xbox, for example, and Xbox came and like you said, the numbers made sense. It wasn't as much as it used to be. And a player was able to buy a ticket, come to the show and play demos of Redfall, Forza Motorsport, and let's say State of Decay 3. Awesome. So
Hmm.
cool. And like that's the kind of thing that I think E3 could become. It's up to them if they want to go that route. And I don't
Hmm.
know that they will. I think they're a little stubborn about it.
Yeah, I feel like they're still holding on to the fact that like we are a big name, so we need a big giant celebration.
Mhm.
Sean says that sounds like E3 2016. LOL. I don't remember 2016 specifically, but I will take your
Feel like
word for it.
that was the one with the flute guy at the PlayStation conference, I think, when
Oh,
Ghost of Tsushima got unveiled. And it was like a 5-minute flute solo, and everybody on Twitter was like, is this gonna end or are we just gonna keep doing this?
Oh man, no. So it is a sad day, I think, overall for E3 and for gamers. I was gonna say, oh, State of Decay Forza. I just guessed the year, but probably close is what you say. Gotcha, gotcha. I lost my train of thought there, but I was gonna say that I think Summer Games Fest. Now we already see Jeff Keighley tweeting about right, like he didn't waste any time promoting his. I think he waited a whole 12 minutes
He had
before.
it in the drafts, man. He had it in the drafts.
12 minutes after their eulogy was posted, he was like, "Yeah, you could come hang out with us." And I like Summer Games Fest. Do I think it has reached the levels of E3 in the past? No, I don't. Like we haven't had a Summer Game Fest moment that rivals like that the year of that PlayStation had where they were like, "Here's God of War and the last and like all that
Mhm.
stuff." We haven't had anything close to that from Summer Games Fest. Maybe we get there one day, but I think it takes a lot of work and building from Jeff that we're is still a long ways off, personally, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I would agree. I think that Jeff's done an incredible job bringing together the Game Awards and Summer Game Fest and kind of having this year end and also year beginning or year mid, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of like a kickoff and then a wrap up. But I kind of said at the beginning of the show, I'm not a big fan of the dancing on the grave of E3 thing. Like, kind of not classy in my opinion, but at the same time, any publicity is good publicity. People are going to talk about it more right now than they will tomorrow. So he might as well go ahead and shoot out that tweet. But I don't think Summer Game Fest is ever going to get to the E3 pinnacle because PlayStation doesn't need it.
Hmm.
Xbox doesn't need it. Now, Jeff can sign these little paperwork contracts and he can claim it as part of Summer Game Fest, but
But it's like 2 weeks apart from everything, you know?
yeah, like you're like a barnacle on a whale at that point. Like the whale doesn't belong to the barnacle. You're just along for the ride. Like Summer Game Fest is just happening to be there while this other thing is going on. Um, so I don't think it'll ever be E3, but I think that it will definitely be the new premiere showcase every year if it wasn't already, which I think we both probably agree it was for a while
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
What they need to do with Summer Games Fest, and I've said this is, and they worked on it a little bit. They made it shorter because I remember the first year it was like 3 months of announcement. I was like, that's a bit much, Jeff. We need to actually calm down. And now he's like, we're gonna keep it in a month, and I was like, how about can we get it to a week? Maybe I don't think he's announced the calendar, but like, can we just condense it to a week? You know, maybe start with the Xbox showcase and then the next like just be done with it. Okay. We don't need to drag out all the announcements throughout the entirety of the summer.
That was tough. I think that was the COVID summer, like the
It was.
actually,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So like 2020. So every day already felt the same anyway because I was just at home like the majority of other people. So I wake up and like June through September was just perpetual new announcement coming, and I'm like, oh my god, when does it end? It's Groundhog Day every day.
Well, we were getting things like the Coke media presentation where it was just them in like a boardroom talking. I was like, what are we doing here, Jeff? What's going
God,
on? This
what a
is what you're
time.
promoting. Yeah, yeah. Well, no, don't miss it. Don't miss it. So
No.
rest in PC3. Sad to see you go, but we'll look forward to Summer Games Fest. But Sam, something else has also died. The $1 Game Pass deal. So Microsoft confirmed over the weekend that they have stopped the $1 trial offer for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and PC Game Pass, telling The Verge, quote, "We have stopped our previous introductory offer for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and PC, and we are evaluating different marketing promotions for new members in the future." I think this is super strange, but I want to get your feelings on it.
I think that this is the first of many changes to Xbox Game Pass pricing structure to come. We're looking at the family plan that's on the way, that's probably going to launch by the end of the year, if not during their showcase here in a couple of weeks. Um, you have the Activision Blizzard deal that's about to go through, and they have said that price increases aren't going to come as a result of the deal going through. But just looking at the value that the service brings, the deals they're signing, the games that are coming on day one, I think that this is them trying to kind of, slow the bleeding a little bit, where they're saying we're not losing money on it, but we're not making as much as we could. So let's go ahead because this is something that I'm sure was abused. People would make, accounts and just keep churning them out. um, Also, I think this is the thing that was you could sign up for a month of Game Pass Ultimate. I think this was being abused where if you had tons of Xbox Live Gold built up, you could turn it into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. That was a thing that had happened a while back, but it would save you like hundreds of dollars. So I think between the abuse and the value of the service, this is probably just the first change they'll make to try and make more money from it.
Mm. Sean in the chat says $1 became more of a joke and took away from its value as an acquisition strategy. So
Hmm.
certainly interesting. I think this is weird. I completely understand what you're saying, Sam, where they want to kind of recoup some of the losses, or not losses, but they could be making more money, right?
Yeah.
I think it's strange simply because we went through 2022 where there were no first party Xbox games except Pentiment, right? We had one at the end of the year. And now finally we're entering 2023 and we've had Hi-Fi Rush already. We're getting Redfall, we're getting Starfield, we might be getting more, give me Hellblade 2. But this deal seems to me like the perfect time to keep it would be this year. So when you are releasing those games, you get a influx of new people to the service. They see how great it is, and then they want to keep it up so that then they pay the $15. Is my thought process behind it. I understand what you're saying. Like, okay, the $1 we're not making as much money, but I would look to, if that's their strategy, we need to look at Xbox Live Gold. If you want to get people into Game Pass that badly, get rid of the service that essentially is not doing anything anymore. There is no reason in my mind for Xbox Live Gold to exist as a standalone at this point.
Yeah, there's a lot to break down there. So first, I see your point of like keeping the dollar Game Pass deal around, and I'm also curious. Like maybe they come back at their presentation and say sign up and get 3 months for $5, kind of a better deal. You know,
Mhm,
it's just a different approach to it. Um, but I think that right now, on the flip side, the inverse of what you said could also be considered to be true, I think, because now you've got a year where there are more games coming to it. So you see, you know, let's say, like you said, Hellblade 2 comes out, Forza Motorsport, Redfall's on the way. Let's say the Activision Blizzard deal closes. A month after that, you get some old Call of Duty games thrown on Game Pass. You got Hi-Fi Rush, you've got Wolong, like things like that keep rolling. I think Liza P is a Game Pass game. Um, so you've got like all of these games that are rolling out. Somebody would say, "Oh my God, $10 for all that every month." Sure. Now, as
mhm.
in 2022, you'd be like, "Oh, neat. I can play all of these old Bethesda games. I'll do that for $1." You know, like that's the kind of thing people might have been seeing. But Game Pass is doing great. Gold needs to die.
Mhm.
And it is beyond time for that fossil to be retired. I mean, it is sad at this point. It's harming the brand, I think.
I mean, I would agree every time they put out those games with gold ads. Like, I think we just got one today or yesterday,
Yeah,
and
today.
I'm like, who actually looks at these and it's like, yes, this is what I'm paying for. Like, at this
Peaky
point, yeah,
Blinders.
Peaky
Peaky
Blinders.
Blinders.
It really is it's a value proposition, and I think Game Pass Ultimate is by far the best value that you can get being on Xbox. So if you aren't taking advantage of that, I'm really confused. Maybe $15, maybe, because I know there are people out there, they're like, okay, I can't play the amount of games on Game Pass. So maybe the in between step, and I think I've pitched this before, is give some sort of tier where you get Xbox Live and then you only get a curated selection of the Game
Hmm,
Pass games at a cheaper value, maybe like $8, like somewhere in the middle where you can get off the Xbox Live Gold, you can retire the Games of Gold service. It'll still be Game Pass, but it won't be the Game Pass Ultimate where you get all the perks and the cost that comes along with those perks.
yeah. I think that they've got to keep it simple. And I think that right now, I mean, they've got a couple of different tiers are in testing. So you've got the ad supported tier that they were asking people if they were going to be interested in from a couple of months ago. And then there's also the confirmed family plan, which is being tested in certain regions around the world. So I think that what they've got to do is if they get rid of Xbox Live, you've got to make online play free entirely. Don't worry about charging people and nickel and diming them, because Xbox Live Gold served its purpose back in 2005 through 2015, but then
Mhm.
the time started to change a bit. So you've got to figure out a way to get rid of Xbox Live Gold without harming the players, because they tried to cancel it last year on like a Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock whenever they were like, "Hey, you remember the price
Yeah,
increase?"
when they're like, "Oh, it's gonna be twice as much now," and everyone's like, "No,
Yeah,
we're not paying twice as much for multiplayer." Is
yeah.
essentially right.
They were trying to like strong arm you into saying, "Why would I pay this when I could buy Game Pass for half the price?" And so then people obviously were like, "What?" And then they reversed it. I think Saturday. I think it was like the day
Literally,
after.
like 8 hours later, I think it was in the middle of the night, like, I saw it, and I
Yeah.
remember I was like, I went out to dinner, had date night with the girlfriend, came home, was like, "Oh, Xbox reversed their decision
Yeah.
already."
So like they're trying to make changes, and I think that probably scared him a bit. But like you said, I mean, seeing the graphic now with two games on it, 90% black background screen. And it's just like with a value of 3876 and 2000 in gamer score. I'm like, you literally with a straight face typed with a value of 3876 on a marketing promo.
Is that what
That's
they
crazy.
do? I paid that close attention. Do they put the
Yeah, yeah.
value?
Yeah,
Oh
on
my
it says
lord.
with a well, it used to be cool back in the day because whenever you'd have like I think there were some months where there were 5 games in the lineup,
Well, it
and it
used
would
to be
be like
360 games
yeah,
or whatever, yeah.
because it was typically 2 and 2, and then sometimes they'd throw in an extra one, but 4 was pretty much the typical, and it would be like with a value of 346, and I'm like, "Oh god, that's so much," and now it's like literally with the value of the price of a great trip to Taco Bell, here's 2000. It's just sad, and so it's time for it to die. I hope that they kill it this year.
Hmm.
Yeah, it should just be buried with E3, in my opinion. Put it in the same grave.
Captain Logan says, "Keep gold. Start putting out Xbox One games."
Mm. I feel like they've done that though, haven't
Yeah,
they?
I think I don't they put out Xbox. What are the games now that they put out? I thought they got rid of the 360 games because they did all that library. I thought it was just Xbox One games now. No.
Yeah, they got rid of, so the Xbox 360 games are no longer included. They said that there were repeats and they were like running out of games that they could feasibly put on it. I think Xbox One games are still just getting churned out, but the other issue with Xbox games with gold is that the games they would typically give away are included with Game Pass. So why
Hmm.
would they say, "Hey, we'll give you this," versus just encouraging people to go play Game Pass? Um, yeah, like they can't. It would be difficult for them to be like, "Hey, here's Gears 5 on gold." Whenever they could be like, I mean, that's kind of a premier
That would be a,
opportunity.
a great games of gold, but that's a
Yeah, it's
lot of
already in
money to
Game
give
Pass.
away. Yeah, that's a
Right,
lot of
yeah,
money to give
yeah,
away when they can just say, if you give us 10 more or $5 more, then you can play it
yeah.
endlessly. Like for not yeah, endlessly because it's a first party. But um the $1 deal, I get what everyone's saying to me now because you get rid of that, you make people buy the Game Pass. All right. You don't have the option for the $1 get in, play the game you want, then leave. So what's Sean saying in the chat? Should they make it more like PS Plus, basic versus ultimate? Um,
Hmm.
this is hard because I have PlayStation Plus Premium, and I would not recommend PlayStation Plus Premium to anyone in the entirety of the world because it is overpriced for what you get. I think the extra tier is a good value for money if you haven't been in the PlayStation ecosystem. And even if you just want a good backlog of games, I think there's some good stuff in there. Essential, I think, is still pretty good. Like you looking at next month, you get like Sackboy, day one, Meet Your Maker or whatever, and then I forget the Tales of Iron. So you get three pretty good offerings that you get to download and keep as long as you have PlayStation Plus. So if they did something like that with gold, I would be for that.
Yeah, maybe. I think that with Ultimate, we've already got the basic tier with Game Pass for console and Game Pass for PC, and then there's the Ultimate tier. So there are kind of two tiers there. But getting even deeper into it, I mean, if you said like, you know, I don't want to call it like the Xbox Game Studios collection, but if you just limited your Game Pass accessibility or whatever the term is there to first party games, that could be really cool. It just depends on like what's the price on like for something like that. What's the UI look like if you're a subscriber there? You know, because you got to change your whole Xbox dashboard because they
Hmm.
centralize everything on pumping Game Pass, everything. So if you do technically subscribe to it, it would be weird if they were like, "Hey, you do sub to this, but not that version, so you can't get it." I don't know how PlayStation handles it. I don't even have a PS5, so I don't know.
So the way PlayStation handles it is you have to go, there's a separate little tile and it says PlayStation Plus. You go there and it will tell you what level of tier you're at. So when I go to my
Mhm.
PlayStation Plus, it says premium, and then it has game catalog twice, mind you. The UI over there is not good either. It says game catalog, and one is for all the games, one is for the newly added games, but they both just say game catalog. The other is for classic games, and you have game trials, and there's like 50 other tabs. And you scroll down, it just tells you all the benefits. So the UI over there not great either. You can get there through the store as well. So it's not Game Pass. You like get on your Xbox, you just click it, and then boom, every
Yeah.
Game Pass game right there. Or like you can go to certain sections where it's like coming soon or genres. So I get what you're saying. I don't know if there's a easy reconciliation there for these companies. It's a tricky because it's a value proposition at the end of the day. We got to figure out what makes sense for the consumer, but also how do they make money,
Mhm.
right? Um, I'm very much in the mindset that I don't think Game Pass price is going up this year. I think if any, like next year would be the earliest it would go up, and even then, I think it's only $1. I'd see people saying it's going to jump up five at once, and I was like, if they try to raise the Game Pass price $5 at once, then people are going to unsubscribe. Like that is too big of a jump.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. For Game Pass Ultimate, what is the maximum, and I promise Phil's not gonna see this. What is the maximum you would pay per month for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate?
I think $20 is the maximum
Mm. I
that you
feel like
could.
That's
Twen
about yeah.
yeah, 20, and then I know the family plan is rumored to be 25, and then, like, say that goes up at some point to 30. I think that is probably the max you can charge people after, like, because I canceled Netflix at 16 or 17 or whatever. I was like, "I not you are not worth it," and I play games way more, so I'm giving them a little more wiggle room, but
Mhm.
that's still a lot of money.
Yeah.
At that point, I'm like, I'll buy some games. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that 20 is where I would say that's as high as they can go comfortably without losing a significant amount of subscribers. I think that when you get up towards 30, like let's say the base tier of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate 5 years from now goes up to like $30, inflation's, wrecking people. And like it is, they just got to do it for business purposes.
Mhm.
It's way too much.
Mhm.
Even I think about it as like that's half the cost, less
Of
than
it.
half the cost now of a full price game every month. But I'm out of the norm. Not everybody's going to go through playing whatever little game gets added to Game Pass because I'll just use it as a discovery engine where I
Mhm.
just start playing different stuff. But for the people that are just looking for the big bangers, that's at $30 a month, you might as well buy the two every year you're really going to enjoy versus
Mhm.
spending $30 a month on stuff that may or may not hit.
And I'm not the average consumer either. I play a ridiculous amount of games, as carpool gaming likes to tell me. I don't have a job. Um, I beat like 90 games last year. I'm already at like 20 something for this year. So like
Oh,
I
we've
play,
heard. We
yeah,
know.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
we
play an
know.
above average amount of games. Okay, but even $30 for me with the amount in Game Pass, I'm not paying it. I'm just gonna buy them at that point.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
yeah. Yeah, play. What do you mean, Logan? What are you coming at me for? All right. Is this because I mainlined Horizon? I just ran from point to point in Zero Dawn?
Oh,
Is
so
that
you're just going through finishing the stories. Like you're
for
just
certain? I don't like open world games, so
mm.
for Horizon, yes, that is what I did, and I made a point to tell Joe when Logan was on the trophy room.
Yeah, why you did better than me. I played about 3 hours of Horizon, and I was like, "This feels weird. I'm out." And so,
Mm,
good on you. I appreciate, I respect that.
yeah, gotta do what you gotta do. All right, let's move on to everyone's favorite topic. We're just killing it this week. The Activision Blizzard deal.
Ugh.
So we got a few news stories here. Firstly, a little short one. We don't have to talk much about this. I don't really know as much to say, but the Japan Fair Trade Commission has approved Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard, saying, quote, the Japan Fair Trade Commission reviewed the transaction and reached a conclusion that the transaction is unlikely to result in substantially restraining competition in any particular fields of trade, and that the merger falls under the safe harbor for vertical business integrations as described in Japan's Anti Monopoly Act. This comes via Anthony Wood at IGN. The more interesting thing to talk about, if how you define interesting, comes from Stephen Totillo over at Axios, who says members of Congress are asking President Joe Biden to take action against PlayStation. Says policymakers have raised concerns last week, saying Sony's business practices in its native Japan are blocking U.S. companies from competing in that country's gaming market and could be running afoul of the U.S. Japan trade deals. The letter, written by 4 Republican members of Congress, alleges that Sony's PlayStation has a 98% of the high end console market and signs deals designed to keep hit Japanese games from Microsoft's Xbox, and this may violate Japan antitrust laws. Sam, I could barely keep a straight face reading that. How are you feeling?
Oh my god. I just want to take a step. How did we get here? Just I think back to like playing Call of Duty in the lobbies as a 13-year-old kid, parents approved of course of being in the M-rated game. But like how do we go from that to like I've literally got a news article on my Twitter timeline about a Republican congressman, lobbying or whatever. It is a strange story. It's, in my opinion, just political showmanship. They're just out there doing their thing. They saw an opportunity to talk about U.S. politics and economy, and they took it. I don't think anything's going to come of it. I think Sony is regretting heavily going as hard against the Activision Blizzard acquisition as they have, because now there's a huge spotlight on them. And I mean, we joke a lot, or at least I do, about the exclusivity deals, and we talk a lot about them. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe that is something that legally could be a problem. I don't know. I have no idea. But like, that's a lot of exclusivity with a lot of deals in specific regions. kind of feels weird from a gamer's perspective, might feel weird from a legal perspective. I don't know.
It's listen, Sean's calling me out in the chat because I always say everyone's favorite topic, and then we talk about it. Obviously, yes, Logan, this is our version of The Bachelor, where we know it's trash, but we keep watching. Um, so the first one, the approval in Japan doesn't interest me at all, but the second story does have a little interesting. I think it's funny because they're basically using arguments from the regular, like things that they said to regulators, and now they're like, you know what, we can turn the tides on PlayStation if we complain to Congress. And it's I always think of that meme where it's like call an ambulance, but not for me, and then they pull out the gun. Like that's how I picture Microsoft throwing this down, where they're like, you thought that you were going to cancel our merger, but instead we're going to cancel you and break into the Japanese market. Which do I think is going to happen? No, I don't think anything substantial will come from this. It's a few Congress people
Yeah,
going
there's
to
no way.
Joe Biden, and I don't know if anyone is listening to the Trophy Room this week. I highly recommend just going to hear Joe, his impression of Joe Biden when he hears about this deal. It's hilarious. Shout out to them, but it's just ridiculous, especially because this 98% figure gets thrown around all the time, right? That in the last few weeks we've seen Xbox come out with their pie charts where they're like, look how much we suck because they want to get their deal through. The 98%, if you actually like, I know they're saying high end console market, so if Nintendo comes out with a new, more powerful console next year, does that suddenly reduce the percentage? Is that gonna suddenly make everything go away? Or like, at what point does Nintendo get added back into the conversation? Because I think it's a very disingenuous argument to disclude Nintendo, especially in Japan, where the Switch is heavily dominating.
Yeah, I think that like you said, it's all very performative, and I think it's meant to paint a PlayStation versus Xbox picture more than anything. And I mean, to be fair, I do think that's the primary conversation that is at the forefront of this whole situation, because no one's going to walk in and it's like, if you are a regular player that wants the premium experience of gaming today, you're not going to walk into a GameStop. No one walks into a GameStop these days, but you're not going to walk in and be like, "Hey, what should I get? The Nintendo, PlayStation, or Xbox?" And the guy's gonna be like, "Oh, dude, you got to see the graphics on the Nintendo Switch version of, I don't know, Borderlands." Like, no one's gonna say that. So it's like the PlayStation and Xbox should be at the forefront, but it is disingenuous to say what is dominating the market overall, because Nintendo, I would assume, is probably just as big, if not significantly larger than PlayStation in the region. I don't
Hmm.
know, but that
They
just
are.
feels right. Yeah.
Yeah, Nintendo is by far the most popular and dominating it over even in Japan. Like the PlayStation's doing better than Xbox, but compared to Nintendo, they're both doing poorly.
Hmm.
Um, so it just comes across as silly to me that they're trying to argue this. If listen, if this somehow turns into something and Joe Biden's like, give them Final Fantasy for everyone, great. All right. That's fine by me. If I can play Final Fantasy 16 on my console of choice, because he's over there telling calls up Shuei, you can't do this no more. And he's like, who are you? Why are you calling me? Uh
I would love for there to just be one piece of legislation that graces the Oval Office desk that has Final Fantasy VII Remake on it. I just want to know it exists. That's all I want. I want an entire paragraph about the importance and significance of cloud in the gaming space.
he,
That's what I want for Joe
he's
Biden.
he's seen the documents. He knows the Xbox version of Final Fantasy 7 remake exists. All right. It's coming any day now.
It's coming. And while he's on the topic, we need to reform Call of Duty lobby voice chat. I think that is a very important topic that should be at the forefront of everyone's mind. We've got to clean those up, because that's where crime happens. I guarantee it.
Well, we're taking more steps towards this deal finally being over, and then we can talk about the games, because I think that'll be the more interesting. I do like some of the business discussion, despite me always joking about it. But I can't wait to talk about like the actual games that we get as a
Mhm.
result of this merger. That's the most exciting thing, and as I said last week, it looks like we're getting closer to it going through. So. We can talk about another game though, Sam, and I don't know if you care about Assassin's Creed, but Assassin's Creed Mirage might be delayed. This comes from Insider Gaming, who reports that a data miner has claimed Mirage and the new Crew game are likely to be delayed into 2024. However, Tom Henderson says that according to his sources, Mirage is still scheduled for August 2023.
Interesting. Just to clarify that, because I saw this on the timeline and then I just
Mm-hmm.
kind of blew past it. So Insider Gaming reported that,
Mm-hmm.
and then Tom Henderson, who owns Insider Gaming, said no.
Yeah, so it is interesting. Yeah, yeah. So apparently they reported that a data miner who I forget some Twitter apparently he's a Ubisoft leaker. He data mined that these games are going to be delayed. So they reported on that data mine leak,
Hmm.
and then he followed up by said my own sources says that they're not delayed. So he
Yeah.
basically wrote the story and then contradicted what the story he wrote
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. He got the clicks and cleared his name. I see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't think I think the Crew could be delayed, but it feels like Assassin's Creed. I mean, it's a smaller spin-off of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It's, kind of it's not a full Assassin's Creed game, not a full priced Assassin's Creed game either. I mean, it's $50. So I think something that's kind of smaller in scale like that and pulled back a little bit should, again, not a game developer, probably be easier to pull off in the amount of time they've been working on it. So I think that could come out at the end of this year. I think that the future Assassin's Creed games, ooh, those are a different story. I don't know when those are going to see the light of day, but they've got plans in place. The Crew is a weird one. I've heard good things about the new Crew game, but time will tell with that one, I guess. As always, release the games when they're ready, which
Mm-hmm.
Last of Us on PC wasn't, but I digress. Put them out when they're ready.
You seen Steam Deck Joel?
Oh, I've seen Steam Deck
He's
Joel. Who hasn't? I've seen the eyebrows on that boy.
lost it. I lost someone modded blackface onto Joel and was like, "This port is broken," and I was like, "You guys are out of control. The internet is out of control with this."
Horrendous.
If we're talking about Assassin's Creed Mirage, though, I haven't heard anything about the Crew. It was announced, and I don't know if we've seen any. At least I haven't seen anything more about it. Right. So for that one, I completely believe. I would struggle to believe that an Assassin's Creed game gets delayed because they do pump them out with such. They're like Call of Duty. They know how to make them. They know how to get them out. And as you said, this is a smaller Assassin's Creed where, according to the rumors, it's not even a new engine. It's based on an old engine and it's going to be smaller in scale. So I find that one a little hard to believe that they're in the Ubisoft pipeline not going to get that one out because
Mhm.
they haven't had one since Valhalla. I know that they've had DLCs, but that's 2 years ago. So it's pretty believable to me that that comes out this year.
Yeah.
Or no,
Valhalla,
three
I
years
think, was
ago.
3 years
Three
ago.
years
Yeah.
ago, actually. Yeah, yeah, 2020. Wow. Well, time flies when you're trapped inside.
Sure does.
So I'm feeling confident about that one, but we'll wait to see. A game I do want to talk about that has me up in arms. MultiVersus. What's your familiarity with MultiVersus, Sam?
I have not played it. I know everything about it and the significance of it, and I'm pretty well versed on the topic. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Versed, get it? It's a pun.
This guy.
Uh, so I played a lot of Multiverses when it came out, and then I fell off because I'm gonna be honest with everyone, the game wasn't that good. All right.
Mm.
I love platform fighters. I'm huge into Smash Brothers. I have both the 100% and the Platinum Trophy for Nickelodeon All Star Brawl on two separate platforms. Okay. So
Wow.
I was fully in on Multiverses. I had some fun, but then I realized this game is broken. The hitboxes were bad. The net code was bad. There's just a lot of things wrong here. So when we're going into this next story, keep all that in mind because Player First Games has announced on Twitter that Multiversus beta will close on June 25th, at which time updates will be paused and the game will go offline completely until launch in early 2024. The game will not be playable after June and will be unlisted from digital stores beginning April 4th. I think this is completely unacceptable. This is ridiculous. When you launched the game and you were like, this is an open beta, we all understood what you meant by that. Hey guys, this is the game launching. It's like Fortnite. This isn't really a beta. It's just going to stay open. You even said yourself on Twitter, there are screenshots from the developer saying, we don't plan to take it down. You charged people hundreds of dollars for things in this battle passes, $20 Superman and Batman skins, ridiculous. Founders packs. And now you're just like, you can't play the game you paid for anymore. We're taking it away. Don't worry, your stuff will probably carry over when we relaunch sometime in the future. I have no faith that your game's going to relaunch because to me it looks very much like the fact you saw your player base was diminishing to nothing. You took the money and now you're running. Who knows if you're coming back?
Yeah, I can confidently bet you are never seeing that game go back online. I think that it's dead in the water. I'm fine with developers changing their minds. If you launch a game and you say, we don't see the player base coming after this, it's not worth our time to continue investing in development of this. We just need to cut and run. That's cool. When you've charged people money for it, that's where it becomes malicious and gross. If you're going to do this, the direct next tweet in that thread should have been, here's a refund policy. Here's where you can request refunds, or you don't even have to do anything. We're refunding everybody's purchases 100% across the board. Thanks for playing. Have a good day. Um, like when you've spent money on a battle pass and all of a sudden the game shuts down just willy-nilly like that, just feels very gross. And I hope the game comes back online, but in the meantime, you shouldn't have been charging for this kind of stuff to begin with if you had known that it was going to be shut down at the beginning of 2023, which clearly this is a whole bunch of PR spin. Like this game,
Mhm.
they were like, hey, you're shutting this bad boy down, and they were like, oh shit, okay, well, let's see you in 2024. And that's kind of what happened.
I just want to know why they're shutting it. Like, if you don't believe in the game and you don't think it's going to be successful in the future, just say that. Don't update it. Just keep the game running servers for however, like it doesn't take that much to run your server. Your WB, right? Like you can afford to run the servers. You don't have to keep working on the game. Just say this is the final product. This is what you get. Like we're stopping development on it. And I think people would have been more accepting of that. Extend or instead they're basically like, the game you helped us develop over the last year plus, the game you paid money for, it might come back in the future. And when it does come back, is it going to look significantly different? Like, I don't know. They haven't said what their plans, what are they doing with all the money that they got from the player base? Are they substantially overhauling the game in the next 7 months or whatever, until 10 months until launch? Like, what are they going to do with all the money? And when it does come back, is it just going to be the same game? Or because in my mind, you need to go all out. You need a story mode. You need offline
Mm.
play because this game you can't play. It's not like Smash Brothers. You can't play it offline. You have to play it with like it's ridiculous the way that they do this. You need a physical release and you need something to be like, okay, you can connect to online play for this game, but you can also, it's going to exist in perpetuity offline. You can have those party games. Just learn from the other ones that have done it before you. Don't try to be the trendsetters in this because you're messing it up.
Yeah. I think that I'm interested to follow along and see what happens with it. I also don't have skin in the game, so like it's me just looking on and being that's a really bad business practice. That's the only thing that I
Mhm.
really can say about it. But just not a good way to run things. And I mean, kind of reminds me a lot of the I think there's been a bit of a fighting game kick. Like you said, there's the Nickelodeon one, there was the MultiVersus one that came out, and it kind of reminds me of the Battle Royale blitz that happened a couple of years
Mhm.
ago, where like Ring of Elysium on PC came out, direct PUBG ripoff, had a battle pass. I bought it. I think the game's still up, but like no one plays it. So it's just they're trying to make the money where they can. I get it, but like you said, with a company that's like Warner Brothers, they have the funding to take care of the people that are buying in, so they
Yeah.
should.
Well, it's disappointing for my I don't trust them. I'm disappointed in this action, but we'll wait to see what happens in 2024. Maybe the game comes out and it's brand new, shiny, and they fixed all their issues and everything's great. But I'm seriously doubting that. I don't know. Anyway, Sam, that's all the news we have for this week. We do have a few viewer questions if you'd like to answer those.
Yeah, let's go for it. Sure.
All right. So they all come from It's Kyle over in our Discord. Like I said, if you want to join that, you can click the link in the description below. And he has a few questions. He wants to know one, does playing the remake of a game count as playing the game, or should you experience both the remake and the original?
Hmm. I think it depends on the remake that we're talking about. I for I'm sure this comes from Resident Evil 4
Hmm.
conversation, probably where it originates from. But like in my opinion, and again, saying this as somebody who has never played one version of Resident Evil 4, so take me for what you will. But I see like the original GameCube version, then there's like the Wii version or the remake version, the first remake. Then there's this new one that's like an actual remake. So I feel like there are 3 different versions and none of them are really the same as the others. Whereas, like, if you played Dead Space Remake and you played Dead Space Original, you can play one or the other. It's pretty much the same game either way. So it kind of depends on each situation.
Yeah, my answer is pretty much the same. If the remake is almost a one-to-one like no story beats are particularly different. They can change a few gameplay things. Like I know Dead Space remake changed like the asteroid section in particular in Dead Space remake is different. So if you improve some stuff but you don't change the core DNA of the game, then I think yes, you can say that. Now, if you were saying, "Hey, I played Final Fantasy VII remake, I played Final Fantasy VII," you did not play Final Fantasy VII.
Totally.
You have no idea. That is not Final Fantasy VII, especially going forward, because everything is completely different. So you cannot say you've played Final Fantasy VII if you've only played Final Fantasy VII remake. All right, completely different. So
Yeah, I would agree. So just to like riff off of that. So let's take Halo 2 and Halo 2 Anniversary with the
mhm.
enhanced cutscenes and like the CGI and stuff. Is that playing the same game? Because the gameplay is still pretty much the same, but the
Yes,
story is like way better with those graphics.
I say yes. Yes,
Okay.
I would say so for sure. Next question. Do you think Xbox was smart to not invest in VR considering recent reports of PSVR 2 flopping?
Unequivocally, yes. I mean, I'm of the boat that the people that want VR want something that's the equivalent of a Meta Quest, to where it is your standalone $400 to $500 purchase that gets you a decent experience. You're playing Beat Saber. You're playing Arizona Sunshine, I think is the zombie game. You're playing these basic experiences, but you're getting them at a pretty good value and a pretty good quality. I think that having to spend you know, an additional 550, which is more than a PS5, for example, you're just not going to see a lot sold from PlayStation, and we're seeing that now. So with Xbox, I mean, we're talking about Xbox as a company that hasn't even dialed in its game production, let alone
Mhm.
its VR software and hardware production. So I'm glad they're out of the game.
Yeah, I'm 100% agree. I think VR is niche in general. It's not something that interests me. So for me personally, I'm glad Xbox is sticking to we got to get our games in order before we
Hmm.
worry about any peripherals because that was one of their downfalls of last gen where they're like the Connect, like everyone's gonna love this. It's like no, this thing doesn't work very well. So do I like to see that the PSVR 2 isn't selling well? No, I don't, because by all accounts, everyone I know that has it really likes it. They say the tech is really good. They're surprised by a lot of the games, but I just don't see a world where VR replaces like standard gaming. I just think it's too much of a workaround hassle, and it just isn't the same experience. So for me, I'm glad Xbox is staying away.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that VR gaming will become a thing whenever the metaverse actually sticks. And you're going to see that by the time that I am wrinkled and gray, my friend. We are not going to see that anytime soon.
Final question for this episode. Do you think the Xbox Series X needs a redesign or a slim version? Everyone's talking about redesigns lately. So, what are you thinking?
I don't think it needs one. I think that we're at a point in the console life cycle and the console space overall where we've kind of hit a threshold of the majority of games can hit 4K 60 or have an option for 4K 60 or upscale. As long as it's 60 and it looks good, then I think people are cool with it. So I don't think if there was a mid-gen refresh, PS5 or otherwise, Xbox Series X, whatever, it would not perform very well as far as sales go. What I do want to see are better looking consoles. So, like with the Diablo 4 bundle that was announced today, just a standard black Xbox Series X. Give me a red one with a demon coming out of the top. Like even just change the inside little rings on the top of it, the vent. Just make them red. Do something to
It
make it feel a little
it was
special.
super because I saw the leak a few days ago about the Dia I was like, "Oh, man, we're getting a special Diablo console? Like, that's
Right? Yeah.
awesome." And then announced today, it was just black with the game, and I was like, "That's not a special console, it's just a bundle." Like, that
Yeah.
is completely disappointing.
I
Yeah,
just don't
that was
know.
a
I don't
bummer.
know. They're like getting away. So they do a ton of weird Xbox Series S's. I mean, they've got
Mm,
one that's like an Oreo right now that's just
mhm.
out there. It's smashed between two big like black discs or whatever. They do cool stuff like that. Why can't we get that with the Series X? So I don't need a refresh or a more powerful one. I just want one that looks cooler.
Yeah, I've long preached no mid-gen refreshes this gen. We don't need them. The PS5 Pro, I don't believe they're gonna get them. First of all, the PS5 Pro rumors that came out last week were vague and not. They're like it might happen in 2024. I'm like, this isn't a rumor. I could say this. Like you're not saying anything. Xbox, we haven't gotten any of that. I'm hoping we never do. I'm hoping they just Xbox Series X until the next console generation. In terms of a slim, sure, if they can make it smaller, easier to produce, I think that will be great, especially if it lowers the price, then more people can get it, increase those sales. But I'm fine with how the Series X looks. Like it fits well for me. I don't even mind the PS5 personally. Like I know everyone thinks it's a giant uh Wi-Fi router, but I like the PS5 looking. I'm gonna keep mine. All
I
right.
walk past one in Target every time I go, and I'm like, that thing is just huge. It is just a monolith in the middle of that supermarket.
Mm,
But I will say, leaving on this note, what I would love to see Microsoft do is an all digital, smaller Series X
yes.
that is like maybe a little bit bigger than the Series S, but it takes that disk drive out and kind of reorganizes the internal pieces there. That would be so cool to be able to throw something with the power of the Series X that's all digital into a backpack and take it on a trip. I would love every second of that. So that's what I hope I see.
Um, yeah, I'm good with I have a digital PS5. I was really sad that there wasn't a digital Series X. I think that would have been a great like just make it the $400. You know, you got the Series S, Series X digital, but they didn't want to do that. So I don't know. I wouldn't buy it because I'm already committed. Like I'm not going to drop more money,
Oh yeah,
but it
totally.
would be awesome. Captain Logan reminds me in the chat, Forza Horizon 5 Rally is out today, everyone. So if you want to play the new expansion, you can go play that. Forgot that. I didn't know that was a thing. It'll be
I have it
awesome.
installed. I'm gonna dive in. I think I saw it might have been Logan and on Twitter having some trouble with it. There was like a crash right after the helicopter drop.
Oh no.
So I might wait a couple of days. We'll see. I'm not dying to play it, but it's one that's definitely on the radar. So Logan,
Mm.
message received loud and clear, my friend. We're gonna dive in.
He's disappointed. Oh, crashed. Sad. Sorry, Logan. Anyway, Sam, thank you so much for joining me. Where can people find you and your lovely content if they want to hear more from you?
Yeah, you can find me over at youtube.com/JamPackSam. I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff. Just hit 500,000 likes on TikTok this week. So we are doing some big numbers over there. So really enjoying that. But anywhere on the internet, you can find me, JamPackSam. Happy to provide the content in the week to week.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I had a lot of fun. You're welcome back anytime. You know that. But if you want to find me, I'm over on Twitter at the Muffin Mons one instead of and O instead of an A. Follow us at Save Game Media over on Twitter. Stay up to date with all of our latest. And until next week, we'll see you.